Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So it's 3:42 in London. It's 8:42 in El Salvador. I'm here in cloudy El Salvador. I don't think you can see it because I'm looking to the right here. I can see lots of clouds. I'm in San Salvador at the moment. And I'm going to analyze the charts. So yeah, let's have a look. See what's going on. My last stream was on Sunday and I had some ideas and it didn't really quite work out the way I imagined. So not really a big deal because when you're trading, if it doesn't do what you want it to do, you don't really take the trade. Although you could argue it has done, it is kind of doing what I imagined. You could argue it is. But it's kind of hard to take a trade at the CME gap because that's really what I was thinking of when it kind of washed the CME gap instantly, didn't it? Let's have a look at the gap. There it is. You see that? That's the CME gap. And you've got these higher time frame levels, local volume. I'll have to update that. Higher volume. And the question is, what's happening here now with Bitcoin? Well, I think it's really bullish. Huh? I think if it was bearish, and this is what I'm thinking it was bearish, it would have gone up to the CME gap and instantly rejected. And it didn't do that. It kind of tried to kind of get through it. It tried to find support here. Lost it, went back up. Now it's coming back down. What's happening here? What's going on here? You're clearly getting a lot of selling, huh? And that's the thing. That's what I'm seeing. I'm getting a lot of the selling, but we're getting a lot of absorption, and that's the other thing. So we're getting a lot of people who are really bearish because Bitcoin's just rejected from all-time highs. So we're getting a lot of selling, a lot of shorting. People are expecting Bitcoin to crash. They're expecting the end of Bitcoin season, Bitcoin bull market, all that kind of malarkey. And so a lot of people are taking shorts. And at the same time, it looks like we're getting quite heavy absorption, like absorption as in longs opening as well. Like the price of Bitcoin is being absorbed. And kind of when I'm looking at this slightly higher time frame, let me hide this. I'm going to look at my indicators now. Hide my analysis. It's not a big deal. When I'm looking at my indicators now, you see on the MACD, we're seeing hidden bullish divergence on this daily time frame, and it's really evident, isn't it? Look at that. And so you can't really ignore that. You can't just ignore that. And then from here to here, we're getting some kind of divergence on the CCI. And even though here, the CCI here is leading and it's kind of, it looks like it's breaking out. It looks like it's breaking out here. And it's a leading indicator. So there's a lot of things that are telling me maybe we're actually about to pump. The other thing that I'm seeing here is the price is decreasing. Let me just get rid of these lines. The price is decreasing and the volume is decreasing too. That usually means that there's some kind of consolidation going on here. It's more of a correction rather than a sell-off, and it feels like a correction. It doesn't feel like a sell-off. And so people are naturally bearish because we've just taken out the all-time highs. But what you have here is a poor high as well. That's the other thing to bear in mind. This here is a poor high. It's not a strong high. It's not like a wick. it has been wicked in. It's been it closed and then it's sold into. And so typically when that happens, the price usually comes back up to test, at the very least to test. And if you go up to test, then your V-shaped recovery, then it's a V-shaped recovery if you go up to test, if you can manage to take out the high. So I don't know, I just kind of feel, look, I kind of feel that we're possibly about to go up. And so here you see on the weekly chart, I did say, wouldn't it be nice if we closed above the previous weekly 50 fib? And I said that on Sunday. Let me have a look at that. Where is that? It's that line here. Look. Let me just draw it again, just so I show you. And so this red candle, and the way I work it out is the body. I don't consider the wicks. I consider the open to close. The 50 fib was at 110832, and you see the weekly candle closed above the 50 fib, the previous 50 fib, and it closed above that previous weekly low. We've already gone back down to test the previous weekly low on this week, and we're trading up. We've gone up. We haven't taken out the previous week high yet. So actually, this is looking really bullish for me. This is looking really bullish. And that was a piercing candle, which is a bullish candle. We need another green candle. And then we're looking at a reversal here. All right. So I kind of feel that this is looking really bullish right now. Just the way the candles are formed. Just that weekly close to me was quite bullish. The volume was quite nice. So we're getting quite nice volume. And I'm just having a look at these other candles to see what's going on. Anything interesting? I mean, naturally, I'm streaming and you get this kind of big 1 hour sell-off with increasing volume. So there's a little bit of sell-off going on right now as I'm streaming. Let me have a look at the order flow and see what's going on there. So we are, wow, we're getting so this is the thing. This is what I'm saying. We're getting bearish absorption here. So this is bearish CVD. You can see that because the CVD is just put in a local high and the price. So we are getting bearish CVD. This is actually bearish today because we're underneath the daily open. We're underneath the VWAP and we're putting in bearish CVD. So today it's bearish. So I don't want to kind of make people like go, oh, it's really bullish, buy. Whereas I can see today that it's looking quite bearish right now. So you just have to be aware of that. But over this range, and this is what I'm talking about, over this range, you see what's going on. The CVD just keeps on going down and down and down and down, and the lows keep on getting higher. It just looks like we're getting gigantic absorption here. See that? The price of Bitcoin is being absorbed. See how the CVD is going down and the lows are getting higher. Now, this whole thing invalidates if and when we take out this pivot low here, wherever the pivot low is, okay? And I'll have a look at that in a second. Let me just have a look at this drop here. Let me just see if there's any single prints because, yeah, there's a few single prints here. I'm not going to bother mark them out, but we put in some single prints. So this is quite bearish right now. So currently, as I'm speaking, it's bearish, but overall, it's still looking quite bullish. So you've got to kind of contextualize the time frame. Now it's looking bearish, but overall, it's still looking quite bullish. And it's just, we have to kind of go back to the charts and see what's going on here. Getting a little bit of a sell-off. Let me get my indicators. Let me get back up, but go back to my Friday analysis here. No, not my Friday analysis. That was not what. Not that one. The Sunday analysis. That's it. So that short was not an easy short. Not an easy short to take. It was the right area, but really I was looking at the CME gap, and the CME gap was filled and it was washed a couple of times. So that short, even though it was the right area, it wasn't in play. It wasn't in play. And actually what I'm looking at now, even though I have the price potentially going down to here for a long, the reality is what I'm actually looking at here is a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming here. And so the question is, what happens next? Because going all the way down here would change this a little bit. It would change the pattern a little bit. And where you have an inverse head and shoulders here, you could end up with some kind of inverse head and shoulders with a larger head here, like that. If we go down all the way down to pick up the liquidity down here. And the reason why I said that there's liquidity here is because when I looked at the volume, there's a point of control. You've got a CME gap down there as well, and you've got some higher time frame levels. A really strong level all the way down at $108,000. And so the question here is, how do we form? Are we forming the right shoulder here? Is this like a mini head and shoulders here, and this is it? Or do we get a flash drop to hit our liquidity area here, which is kind of what I indicated initially on Sunday, and then pump for a real complicated head and shoulders pattern here, right back up, take out those highs, another shoulder, and then once that happens, you're probably expanding probably all the way to all-time highs. But there's a massive liquidity zone here to short. So there's a lot of things going on here, but Bitcoin is not crashing yet. You know, it's not. I don't feel the bull market's over, and it doesn't look like it's over. And so that's kind of why I'm still bullish, because I'm seeing absorption across this range, from these lows. I've seen it. Unless we now take out these lows, taking out those lows would invalidate the CVD, but the bullish CVD. And so as long as we don't take out those lows, I'm seeing bullish absorption here. And that's what I'm going to be keenly looking at as we go forward, analyzing Bitcoin. So going back to my Sunday analysis, that's one idea. The other idea is we just kind of form a right shoulder here, because we're looking at a little bit of a inverse head and shoulders here, and we just kind of can't get down here, and then we just break out like that. So that's, but at the moment, because we're looking at the order flow, and because the order flow is looking a little bit bearish, let me go and have a look at this, the imbalances again. Let me have a look. There's some shorts loading up there. There's some longs loading up there. Shorts, there's some shorts loading. So there's some shorts loading up here in this candle, and some longs. So that short, think about 3 million shorts. How many shorts are there? 1.4 million shorts. It's already underwater. What's that? You see this long? Wow, look at that long. That's 23 million positive delta. Shit, that's a fucking big long. Look at that. Oh yeah, so this is actually really quite bearish, in a sense that the long, if the price drops underneath this area, then that long is going to be underwater, and they'll have to close their position, and that will just cause the price to drop. So you've got a really brave long here coming with positive delta, which has been absorbed, yeah. So this is quite bearish here. If that long gets trapped, that's going to cause the price to crash in, drop again. Okay, so you just have to bear that in mind. But otherwise, that's a brave long. That's a brave long. And I don't see crazy shorts loading up, unless of course we kind of reverse this drop, this 10 million drop, which is actually only about, it's like 20 million negative delta in that drop. And if you reverse that, then you're going to have shorts caught underwater. But you see that the CVD is going down. So CVD going down, across this range means that shorts are loading up. Okay. Wow, look at that. What is that? Let me go to a slightly higher time. Let me go to 4-hour time frame. Yeah. Okay, so what next? Well, nothing really. I mean, it's just going back to my original chart analysis. If we get a drop, that's a good place to long. But this could be forming an inverse head and shoulders pattern here. Yeah. I don't know how I would take a trade here, to be honest with you, because of the bearish CVD. I'd probably wait for the bearish CVD to invalidate, possibly from here a breakout long would be the long, to be honest with you. That might be the trade, a breakout long. It's hard taking breakout longs, but effectively that's what I'd be thinking about right now in this position, because the right shoulder has potentially formed, and you wouldn't gamble because you don't know if it can drop down to make a more complicated head and shoulders. But effectively you're looking at a breakout long here with slightly wider invalidation, and then a measured move taking us all the way up to there, kind of something like that. That's kind of what I'm imagining here now for a long, a breakout long, or a drop to the same place that I indicated on Sunday for the price to react somewhere down here, the golden pocket, or the point of control into the 786 for a more complicated right head and shoulders pattern with kind of a larger head. You see that, a larger head, right shoulder, and then another breakout to the upside. So this is food for thought. Otherwise I wouldn't mess around. I mean, could you short? Yeah, I mean, you could short if you wanted to. I had a short, but honestly right now, because I'm seeing overall bullish CVD, because the weekly candle was piercing, I'm kind of thinking up, I'm not thinking down. So probably wouldn't be shorting unless I saw a real kind of, I see this bullish CVD invalidate, the lows are taken. If the lows are taken, then I think things start to change significantly, because it just looks like we're actually, the bulls have been overpowered and the bears are fully in control. Then it starts to fall, and it really starts to fall. Then we start to lose significant levels. And so I think this is the last level of support for Bitcoin if it wants to explode up. And I am thinking up. I'm not thinking down, but again, the price never moves in straight lines. And so you just have to kind of bear that in mind. So let me just hide that. Let me go back to the monthly time frame candle. Yeah, so we've gone up, we've gone up from that red candle. We're pushing up. It's an inside candle from the previous month. Technically bearish. Could this be a bear trap at the highs? I like that weekly candle, to be honest with you. I like that piercing candle there. I like that we closed above the previous week low. So there's a few things I like about these candles. And you see here in the 3-day candle, we've got 8 hours to go, and we're kind of trying to find support here. It looks like, you see on the 3-day time frame, it looks like we're trying to find support here, isn't it? That's what it looks like. It looks like the price of Bitcoin is trying to find support. You have to remember that crypto or Bitcoin or anything always looks bearish or crazy bearish before it becomes super bullish. Yeah. It's never like bullish and then really bullish. It's always bearish into crazy bullish. And that's the key. And so when you're feeling bearish, when everything's looking bearish, when we're at the lows, when it looks like it wants to crash, when everything looks shit, that's actually probably the right place to buy. And the inverse of that is true. When everything looks really bullish, when everything looks like it wants to go higher and higher and higher, that's usually the right place to sell, you know? So it's always the inverse of what you could imagine when it comes to buying and selling. So in this case, if you start feeling bearish, then maybe it's a good time to buy. Yeah, or good place, time to buy. And if you think that we're above 111,000, is this it? Is this the end? Probably not, because we're in price discovery. And that's kind of another thing that I'm kind of thinking to myself. We've just entered price discovery in a meaningful way. It'd be mental for this just to be the end, especially with the Federal Reserve reducing interest rates next week. They're going to reduce interest rates for 3 months. That's a big deal, and that's kind of why the dollar has been dropping. So when you kind of have a look at the DXY, yeah, I mean, it's obviously been priced in a little bit, but look, the DXY is struggling. You see that? And then if you were to go to kind of, let's have a look at the GBP. Look at that. It's going up against the pound's going up against the dollar. You see that? And so these are kind of signs that possibly something big is coming. And then the other thing to look at, which is kind of giving me this kind of a little bit of a bias here, is Bitcoin dominance. And look at that. It just looks like Bitcoin dominance doesn't want to go up. It wants to go down, huh? Yeah, it doesn't look strong to go up. It looks like it wants to continue. Yeah, so I've got this kind of 1, 2, 3. This is kind of like, these are like opium trend lines, really. They're not actual trend lines. The actual trend was that yellow line, which I previously drew. And then we found support and it went up, and then we lost it. We're kind of into the lower part of the golden, the reverse of the golden pocket now. You lose that, and you could actually bam, 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 go down really fast. Like another drop, big drop. Like that. And then the question is, do you fall back into this triangle? Because if you do, then you're going all the way down, aren't you? Right back down to the lows here. And this whole thing becomes a deviation. And then this is your mega, this becomes your mega alt season. And then the question is, where is a good place to kind of exit your alts if that was to happen? Well, it's all speculation, isn't it? And none of this is financial advice. I think the golden pocket is always a good place. But then, you know, once you're in this, back in this triangle, this whole thing is bearish then for Bitcoin dominance. And it could, you know, it could go down further, you know, and that's the thing. So there's a lot of things that could happen if we get back into this triangle. And so the first kind of real test will be to see if we can get back into these lows. And then let me just have a look at the point of control here. I'll look to that in a while. We have this value area low, which is at the 50 fib. That's at 50%. So naturally, that's probably going to be a pretty heavy support level. That will probably be the target if we do. You've got these fib levels. They will be targets. You know, they will be targets. Do you go down to there? Do you go back up? Do you go back down? You know, like, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen. It's very different to before. But it could just go down and down and down and crash, crash, crash. You see here, there was no support there. Is there going to be support here? Probably, because we found support here. And so there's no reason why there wouldn't be support here. And then here, is there going to be support? Probably not as much. So possibly that will be your target. Your 50% will be the next target if BTC drops, BTCD drops. And then you're back in the triangle, aren't you? You're back in this kind of higher time frame triangle. That becomes really bearish. The price could just kind of go up, try and get out, but then drop again. And then that's your kind of real target, these low. That will be the golden pocket. Would that be the end of alt season? Possibly not, Possibly not, because even though that would be a good place to exit and take profit and make good money, then you could go up to retest and the value area high there, find resistance of the top of that triangle, and then you could just drop again like that, and that could take another year. So it may not look pretty for alts, because by then Bitcoin has dominance stopped moving. It's just going sideways until you get your final push, possibly at the end of the year or something like that. That's kind of like an idea of what could happen. And then actually that will be the end, That would be the end, because you've kind of reached your limit. Maybe to break out again, maybe to break up to the upside like that, and then everything changes again. So it's just food for thought. I'm just speculating. This is all kind of entertainment. Let's have a look at the SPX and see what's happening there. Nothing much really. It's just kind of lingering at the highs. And the Russell 2000. Today it's trying to pull him back, but see that? You're not really getting a big sell-off here, and it's just going up, and no one's really selling. And that's really interesting. No one's really selling, and then gold has fucking gone up to another all-time high. Look at that, 3,600. But possibly that's the end, Possibly that's the end of the gold run. Possibly. Wow, look at that. Gold. From that breakout has taken gold 76% increase in value. Now, with the dollar interest rates dropping, I imagine that this is going to drop too. This is quite a run, Look at that run. Bam, bam, bam. And this is the other thing. If gold starts pulling back, that value is going to go all the way into Bitcoin, isn't it? And when you see Pax Gold against BTC, let's have a look. This is on Binance. We're kind of at the lows here, aren't we? So it's actually, Bitcoin is still better than gold here, isn't it? Even though gold is getting a little bit of a little bounce here off the value area low. It does look like, because what's happening here is that you're hitting the lows. Eventually the lows break. Eventually, however it gets to, you drop. Yeah, that's what happens. And then you're into fib extensions, into inverse price discovery, gold against Bitcoin. That's what happens, If it was bullish the other way around, it would be different, but it's not. So that's the kind of trend line to look at. If that breaks, this value area low is getting washed. If you kind of hit that and just kind of break it, drop. How would you drop? You'd be dropping all the way down to there, really. That would be it. That would be your target. Look at that. Because look at that. Look at that formation there. It's almost like a head and shoulders pattern, isn't it? Pax Gold against Bitcoin. Bam, bam. Whatever. It's like a big shoulder there. So that'll be interesting to see. And then a measured move would take it potentially all the way down to the 1 to 2, but that's quite low. So I think the targets would be these extended fibs here that I've marked out. These okay, so that's kind of where I'm at. Let me have a look at ETH BTC. Let's have a look at the weekly time frame on ETH BTC. Yeah, so unfortunately, that was still quite bearish because it closed lower. So ETH BTC isn't ready to go up just yet. But what you do see is something interesting. You've got decreasing volumes here, decreasing volume, decreasing prices. So even though it closed lower, it is actually decreasing volume in the selling. So you can tell that there's quite a lot of anticipation for something happening because the selling is dropping off. Even though it is kind of consolidating, it is kind of consolidations after the price moves, the price does go down, but you see the volume is dropping off. And that's kind of, it gives me the kind of the vibe that actually this is a correction. It's not a sell-off, which means we're not at the end. And even though the price of like ETH is dropping because of Bitcoin, because there's obviously a synergy, a reflection between Bitcoin and the rest of the market. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look too bad. Okay. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, we're on the verge of something really big, and mainly because I think possibly because of Bitcoin dominance finding weakness. So you go back to Bitcoin dominance, have a look at Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, it's looking weaker here. It doesn't look strong. There's no bounce. There's no recovery. It's just kind of like loitering at the support level. For me, this is consolidation on support, which is bearish. And so you can see that it's just bearish consolidation on support here. And that's that eventually support breaks. That's what happens. And then the other thing is the total market cap. Can have a look at that. Let's go to the slightly higher time frame. You see, we're loitering at the highs here. We're above that. We're above that previous all-time high. This is bullish, you know, just kind of consolidating here above a previous all-time high. This isn't bearish. This is looking like consolidation, ready to go up another level. Let me have a look at these other ones quickly. Yeah. Nothing to see really. And then the other thing is that I've seen a lot of this is the other thing. I don't know. I don't usually kind of bother with other people on X, and I'm not really too fussed about what people say. But if you just go to X and just have a look at alt season, just do a search and you'll see, you know, you'll see. We've never been closer to alt season. Alt coins are about to explode. So I don't know where this index comes from. I have never seen this before. Oh, I have. I don't know where it's from though. But look, you see that we kind of, a lot of people are talking about alt season, September, October, and December. Look at that, rate cuts, rate cuts. That's quite interesting. The market rotation is heating up. Let's have a look at this on Crypto Jack. This is the BT. He's got a different kind of chart. It's very different. Top trend line. That's nice, actually. I like that. Possibly. It's possible. I could replicate that on BTCD. Let's have a look. That could be a different way of looking at the charts. Let me just get rid of these brush strokes. Hide. Get rid of that. How did he do that? Trend line. Right, so what he was looking at here was from this pivot area. That. Yeah, it's not exact, but whatever. I mean, he's made that shit up, hasn't he? Who knows? Maybe all the way down to the. I don't know. It's hopium, isn't it? It'd be nicer. I think probably here is the target. This breakout level. There, you see, there's a little bit of a breakout level there. and you're looking to come and test the breakout, aren't you? Unless you can consider any one of these the breakout levels. But in this sense, you can see that there's a little bit of a pattern here. There's a little bit of a something here, isn't there? So I think in the first instance, whatever happens, that's your kind of target. But I mean, who knows? Maybe he's right. And that's why it's important in this next kind of big move to take profits, skim. So this whatever happens next, this is going to be the end. Wait for the moves, and then once the moves happen, start skimming. Don't put money back in. Don't put your USDT back in once you start skimming this time round, because this could be the big move if we do see a real rejection here, and then we just reverse all of this up move in a really fast manner. And it could be fast. It could be like 1 month or 6 weeks where this just goes down. And then you could be skimming, or you could be scaling out once you hit those resistance levels, taking it back to USDT and just kind of, and then just that would be the strategy until I mean, you could just go for broke and hope for grand riches at the lows here, and what Crypto Jack was saying, but that's big. It's a big risk, and you obviously don't want to get caught in a situation where you haven't taken profit, and the price, altcoins go up fast and they can come down really fast, and that's the other thing. This is another one. Look at this. So where are we now? Hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria. So he's got that going up. I don't know. He's got these dates all fucked, haven't he? Like November, October, some whatever. Who knows? So you just got to be careful about these. So there's a lot of people like, oh, that's me. Interesting. What's this one? Others versus Bitcoin. Well, look at that. That BACD is crazy bullish, hidden bullish divergence there. You can see it. See that lower MACD, higher lows. So there's something about to happen for sure. 100%. I can see it. It's just that, as always, you can't predict it. And when it happens so fast. And then you just have to be positioned in. And that's the key. Yeah, you can't be out of the market waiting for the move. You just have to be positioned in and just wait for it to happen. There's going to be a rotation, and the rotation means that some coins will move first, and you kind of have to just not chase them. Here, look, this guy's saying, and the vault season at the lows there. What's interesting is here on the RSI, he's got it at the highs there, and then maybe when the RSI comes all the way down to the lows is the end, huh? So it'd be important to look at the indicators as well to see how they're faring when the price of, say, this Bitcoin dominance chart reaches its target at the lows, etc. Yeah, let's have a look. Look at this one. 2021 breakout. September drop, and then up, and then breakout. Bam, 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 bam. This guy's predicting if it's the same thing. Who knows? This is the altcoin's total market cap. Drop and then up. Look at what this guy says. Crypto total market cap excluding BTC and ETH. He's got some kind of triangle. What time frame has he got? I can't see it. Daily time frame. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, maybe. What he's got is something like this. Look. Bam. Bam. Little breakout. Yeah, this is probably the best one actually. And this is total market cap excluding BTC ETH. Let's have a look at my patterns here. Let me see if there's anything rising wedge target. You can see there's quite heavy anticipation for a mega alt season. So this is something to bear in mind, huh? Something to bear in mind. All right. So that's kind of my update. I think Bitcoin is looking bearish right now, getting a little bit of a pullback. But that's fine. That's normal. And we just have to see what happens here. Does Bitcoin continue to kind of consolidate like this? Oh shit, what did I do? If not, it'll break down and it'll go for my target. My target being there. Otherwise, a breakout long here would be nice on this inverse head and shoulders there. Otherwise, we're looking at a kind of a more complicated inverse head and shoulders with the price dropping into my target liquidity run, and then bam, boom. And then honestly, even though we've got a massive short zone here, it would be a big take profit for this breakout. But I would then think possibly, I mean, it could be a lower high as well, and that's the thing you have to bear in mind. So we just have to see how the price reacts. It's always about the reaction. But if you get a mega short squeeze, then you could rocket to the all-time high again. Yeah, that's something to kind of bear in mind. All right, so that's Bitcoin, and I've kind of had a look at alt season as well. Just kind of contemplating alt season a little bit. I hope that helps if people are watching the stream. What else do I want to look at? I do want to look at TRVL. I'm going to come back for TRVL. All right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. It's good when I take a 5-minute break because it creates a gap in the stream, and so it makes my editing easier. 5-minute break, and then I will look at TRVL. Okay. Okay, be right back. Okay, I'm back. So let's have a look at TRVL. And so the thing about TRVL, and this is the really important thing for me, is this. Last time I looked at it, it looked pretty bearish because we were just kind of crazy selling off. Yeah. Closing lower. And then we had a really nice increasing volume buy up yesterday. Okay, that was really important. Because why? Because if you look at the weekly time frame, you go to the Bollinger Bands, what do you see? And I talked about this before in one of my previous streams. I was talking about this midpoint, this 20 MA, the midpoint of the Bollinger Band offering support. And it has, hasn't it? Look, support. Here, look, it's offering support. And you see it when it closed in the weekly time frame, it closed above it. Okay. Now, sometimes that's not good because when it closes above, then the next candle opens underneath and it continues. But here you can see that we're getting a little bit of a buy up on the. You see that we're getting a little bit of a buy up with increasing volume, and so that's quite a good sign. And here on a 3-day time frame, we're kind of at the midpoint again, and we're getting some quite heavy selling. This candle closes in 8 hours. You see that? And the volume is slightly decreasing, but the volume is still quite high comparatively when you look at this, the volume here, and the price hasn't moved. So we're getting quite heavy absorption here, quite heavy buying here. And that's what I like to see. That's what you want to see. You want to see heavy buying. And that helps, doesn't it? It helps because with something like a liquid token like TRVL, often with the heavy selling, when there's no buying, it just drops, doesn't it? We've seen that in the past. We've seen how, you know, look at that low volume drop. Look at the low volume there. You see, there was no buying, but because there was no buying, it took a minimal amount of selling straight through the all-time low. There was no defense of the all-time low. Look at that, no defense. And then the price just crashed. But it was relatively low volume. And so I'm kind of like still, I mean, we obviously have to see what happens. It's coming to my son, like this is what I was imagining initially. A right shoulder forming here. Look, and the other thing is that we came back above this anchored VWAP, and this is the price of TRVL has done this a couple of times. You see, it's come above it, it found support, come above it, and kind of found support. We lost it, now we come above it. Can we find support? Do we go back down? This is the question. How does this play out? But I do feel that we're getting quite heavy absorption here on TRVL. Otherwise, we're going to form the harmonic. And so that's the kind of two ideas I had. Either we find support here to go up, or we drop down for one last drop for a push. But either way, I am imagining some kind of inverse, and it's kind of very similar to Bitcoin. And I've drawn this out before. It's very different to the past. Like the price of TRVL is actually, in a sense, is mimicking Bitcoin. But I am kind of still seeing an inverse head and shoulders here. Bam, that's the head. How does the shoulder play out? Could it be like that? Or could it just be like that? Yeah, I am still seeing it, and it kind of corresponds with Bitcoin's behavior and what I'm seeing on Bitcoin with an inverse. I talked about the inverse head and shoulder potentially playing out or forming on Bitcoin. And if you do get like a breakout here, then you're looking at a really strong push up, a mega push, and you end up with a God candle. And that's kind of what I'm imagining, a God candle. And we haven't seen that yet. We've only seen God candles to the downside. What we want is a big, amazing candle going upwards, don't we? And so right now, you see the volume is increasing on this month. Look, what's the date today? It's the 9th of September. we're already over half the volume of 2 months ago. You see that? And so we're starting to get quite good volume again. And that's kind of what we want to see on this monthly candle. We want to see an increase in volume if that's possible. That would be really bullish to get this monthly candle going all the way up with an increase in volume. Yeah, to get a really nice God candle pushing up to 3 cents. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm imagining right now. It's hard to imagine when it looks bearish. You see, the thing is, and this is what I keep on saying, when it looks bearish, that's the good time to buy. When everything looks bearish, that's your dip. Huh? And we're not getting the kind of sell-off that we've seen like here or here. This is different because you can see you're selling, you're buying, you're selling, you're buying, you're selling, you're buying, you're selling, you're buying. See that? This is different. So we're clearly getting people buying in this pullback. This is very different to what we've, like when you look at the whole of TRVL, it's very different. We got it here before as well. We got it here before, you see? But that was quite a long sell by, sell by, sell by, and then it did pump all the way up to basically the golden pocket area. But this is kind of like going back to then, and that's kind of what we want to see. It just gives us the confidence and the idea that something big is about to happen with TRVL. It looks kind of, the last weekly candle looks bearish. It does, doesn't it? But let's see how this week plays out. If we can reverse that, maybe with a weekly piercing candle closing above the 50 fib of the previous week body, then maybe next week we can go right back into the highs, and then maybe by the end of the month we can have a pop. And typically with these candles, and this is really important, typically with these candles, you see these red ones all the way from that little green candle there. Typically with these candles, when you get these sharp drops, when the price finally breaks out, it goes up really fast, all the way up to there. Typically that's what happens. Yeah, could take a few weeks, but typically that's what happens. And the reason why we're kind of consolidating and stopping here is because of these two green candles. Simply, it's because of those two green candles. Yeah, that's why the price is kind of struggling here a little bit, because that's where the liquidity was, and that's where the price, people were buying. You see that? And then when the price came back up, they sold, and then they bought, and then they sold, and that's kind of, that indicates that. And so actually all the way up to about there, there's a little resistance here, but there is what I probably expect on this move up. And even though I've got a target for like 3 cents or 3.2, whatever, you know, we could go up 300%, maybe 400%. And then it all depends on the rest of crypto. It depends on alt season. It depends on euphoria. But this is actually really, this becomes really bullish if that was to happen, because you're back in the range. Getting back into the range is bullish on a higher time frame. This whole thing becomes deviation from the range. This whole thing becomes a deviation. You're back in the range. You'll naturally get a sell-off, and then you just have to hold 2 cent low. You hold that as support, and then you could smash up for another move. It could totally happen. It could totally happen. Yeah, you could have a next one big move, and you can have another big move, and then that could be the end. Potentially, you could go up quite nicely to 17.5, whatever, potentially, which is kind of my higher time frame target. Take out all those highs. This whole thing would look bullish. Yeah, it's not all-time highs. Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily matter, because that would give people, potentially everyone who's accumulated TRVL in this last 4 years, a clean exit. And then once you have a clean exit, that allows a reaccumulation in a future kind of bear market, and the reaccumulation would be just kind of more range bound behavior, holding 2 cents as the low, trying not to go all the way down to the all-time low. I don't think we'll ever go back to the all-time low because the market cap was so low. And if you do end up pushing and pushing all the way up to something like 17 cents, I don't know about the timings, I'm just kind of swiggling at the moment, then yeah, you see that, then the golden pocket would land all the way back at the 2 cent low, or the previous all-time low, which is at 2 cents. At the end of some kind of bear market, you end back at 2 cents, and that gives people this whole thing becomes reaccumulation, and then you have that would be your first kind of big move, 1 2 3 4 5, and so effectively, potentially, we're not going to all-time highs. Maybe 17.5 is the target, and then the next reaccumulation would be all the way down at 2 cents of the golden pocket. If we get enough interest there, and you know the other thing about like D-Travel, these kind of real-world tokens, real-world applications, decentralized real-world applications, they do very well in the bear market. They do very well. And, you know, that's whereas a lot of altcoins will probably go to zero, I think we'll probably consolidate during the bear market for another 1 or 2 years. And then we'll have a real nice chance to smash to the upside and then really attack all-time highs in that scenario. So there's a lot of things that could happen. And so right now, we're just keenly looking at how we can get back into the range. And that's going to be our really first objective. And that's, until that happens, I think it's just buy, not financial advice. Accumulate, buy, not financial advice. Just remember that. None of this is advice. And then trying to get back into the range, to take profit there, to try and reaccumulate. I don't know how this is going to play out. And then for the bulls who are kind of taking profit, 2 cents is the level to defend, back at 2 cents. That would be really nice. If that happens, then we could see another push up to the upside. Possibly the timings are going to be fast. And see, the other thing is that if our alt season now is just one alt season, this is the other thing. So I'm extending the timings. If the alt season now is just like 2 months or 3 months, like October, November, just 2 months, it could be, then we could just get, I don't know how this candle is going to work out this month. Let's just assume that, let's just imagine it's red. Then the next month could be green, bam, green. You could just get like that. Just green, green, green. Just straight up, just wherever. It will just take you to euphoric highs. And even though it's not the all-time high in the sense of TRVL, that would be euphoria, because you've gone all the way up to like 20 cents, 25 cents. That would be quite euphoric for people who are holding TRVL. That would be a really impressive increase in value from where we are, like 3,000%. And that would require a euphoric buyer. It would be like the market, the altcoin market going mental. Buy. And the other thing is, with these like low liquidity altcoins, it is possible. They do move a lot. Once they start moving, they do move a lot. What's interesting is the volume is really nice here. That's really important. Yeah, you see that the volume is really nice. We're starting to continue putting in volume here, and the sell volume is being absorbed. So it's really good to see. If you go to the D-Travel, X page, just keep an eye on it. Look at this. We're making a list. As a crypto traveler, you should be here, don't you? MFers traveling all in crypto. Huh. I don't really know what that means, but whatever. It's quite funny. We're excited to introduce the newest feature on D-Travel, upsells. A brand new feature in D-Travel that lets you offer guests optional add-ons, services, and products with their reservations. Hosts can now boost revenue with add-ons, airport pickup, late checkout, etc. Personalize every stay with unique services. Stay flexible, meaning guests can choose extras at checkout. Amazing for that. So here you go. Wow. Laundry service, airport pickup. This is amazing. So you see, we're growing. We're doing, this is even better than Airbnb. Airbnb doesn't have this, and we have this. And so TRVL, the application, is becoming a real mammoth. It's starting to take shape, and eventually we're going to explode. I keep on talking about the explosion. Eventually we're going to explode on the real world network. We have a really important initiative here in El Salvador, and this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here, to be part of that, to lead that in many ways, to contribute, to be the TRVL rep, the representative here, the face, and to explain and to share about TRVL and share about my experiences with Airbnb and with hosting. Go and have a look at my previous videos. If you go to my YouTube channel, you will see that I've made a lot of videos about TRVL. I've got a playlist. If you go to my playlist, I've got 250 videos. What the hell? And the dark green ones are, generally speaking, about the price and the charts. The light green ones are generally speaking about the fundamentals and the business. Yeah, this is an important one. TRVL and TRVL, my 65k crypto booking journey. Go and have a look at that. You'll understand why I'm bullish on the business, who I am, and what I'm doing here in El Salvador. I've talked about it a few times, my El Salvador mission, and these light green ones are good. So yeah, and then obviously I kind of do the charts for fun. It's kind of entertainment, really. So it kind of gives people something to be interested in. And I think it does help, you know, like some people, I tell people, give some people some keen advice: skim at the highs, reaccumulate at the lows. And I think some people are paying attention. Right now, when you go to the local time frame, we're getting a little bit of a selling. This is because of Bitcoin. Naturally, you see that it's a bit because of Bitcoin, but let's just see how this plays out. This is my kind of two ideas that I have. Either we just consolidate here or we go lower. Okay, it's kind of the two ideas. But yesterday's buy was impressive. It was a really nice buy up with an increase in volume. That's what you want to see. With the buy ups, you want to see increasing volume. Yeah, with the green candles, you want to see increasing volume. With the red candles, you want to see decreasing volume. Okay, if you start seeing that, that gives you the confidence that actually this is eventually going to come to an end. Like I said on Sunday, I was talking about the indicators. I was talking about bullish divergences forming, and there are. You can see it. Now it's a lot more evident that the daily time frame MACD is dropped. This is still higher low. This is lower low. You see that? My CCI is now coming into a support level. It's coming to -100. The 3-day chart, the CCI is coming to a support level. It's come to 0. On the weekly chart, there's no CCI. Why is there no CCI? That's weird. Let me just have a look at that. It should be. There it is. Again, the weekly, you're getting a little bit of pullback there. That's fine. You see on the 12-hour time frame, look at that. Look at the CCI there. Sorry, the MACD. Look at that hidden bullish divergence forming there. So we're getting quite heavy absorption. This is what I talked about, the hidden bullish absorption here. And so that just gives me the confidence that we are now bottoming. We've bottomed out. For me, this is a bottom. And then what we want to see next is the impulsive God candle. That's what's going to happen next. A really nice bam. And what we want to see of the God candle is mega volume, really nice volume. That's what we want to see. Crazy volume. Yeah, if we can get that, then we're rolling. Yeah, then maybe this 3-month candle looks bullish. It is bullish candles. It's a piercing already. The next one, another 3-month green candle. Maybe that can be our God candle, 3-month God candle. Bam, taking us all the way to these highs. I don't know how high we'll get, but you know, the higher the better. It'd be nice if we could go all the way up to take out these highs, all the way up to the top. That would be really bullish if that happened. And then obviously I would say bearish in this circumstance would be just to kind of do another lower high. But you have to be keen to take profit now in this next move up after the price expands, and then looking to kind of defend 2 cents. That's what we want to do. We want to kind of take profit. If we can recapture the range, we'll all take a little bit of profit and then wait for 2 cents. Yeah, and see if we can kind of reaccumulate at 2 cents type thing, assuming that there's a reaction and then there's a bit of an alignment with the fibs and volume and everything else. So anyway, that's kind of TRVL for today. I might stream again either tomorrow or the day after. I'm just kind of like, I will definitely stream on Friday, but I'm probably going to be streaming a little bit, maybe another stream tomorrow. It's quite a tense moment, you know, and alt season is on the door, is beckoning. And so that's kind of what I'm feeling. And then so, wow, look at that. That was bearish. And so we just want to see, I don't want us to miss that. Huh? I just want us to see how that plays out. Okay. That's kind of what's on my mind. Okay. So right now we're getting a pullback. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the last pullback before we can get the pump. So naturally I say, remember Bitcoin, I said, wait for the breakout. It didn't happen. And now we're looking for lower at the moment, or the price could always just kind of just take out these lows here, any one of these lows, and reverse. But that's Bitcoin. All right. So have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful Tuesday. And I'll definitely see you on Friday, but otherwise possibly tomorrow or the day after I'll do another stream, depending on what I'm kind of, I'll keep an eye on the charts now. I'm keenly looking at the charts, keeping an eye on them, and we'll get back to you. The other thing I wanted to say actually about TRVL, this is actually quite interesting. I kind of wanted to talk about this. I didn't mention it. Let's go back to TRVL. That obviously didn't play out. Let's get rid of these brush strokes. Sometimes I imagine things and they don't quite play out, which is fine. It's normal, isn't it? It's like, it's all entertainment, isn't it? So when I'm looking at the TRVL versus Bitcoin chart, and this is kind of a combined chart, so there's no actual trading going on in this chart. It's just an idea of where the price was and where the value was when the price was at that value, and then where the volume came at those values. And here you can see that we are, look at this, at the point of control. Look at that. And we found, yesterday we found support. We had a reaction off the point of control against the Bitcoin chart. This is what I wanted to see, and this, we're seeing what I wanted to see. That's a reaction. If we can hold support here, that will be a confirmed back test. And you can see the volume. The volume is a mega. Okay, and possibly in this circumstance, the target, if we can go up, if we can find support here, and this is a really good place to buy TRVL against Bitcoin, because you can see, if you zoom in, you can see we've had a reaction. We've had a reaction on the point of control. Yeah, so there's a little bit of an SR flip going on here. See that? A little bit of an SR flip. And it's the highest volume node with respect to Bitcoin against TRVL. So this is the right place. Yeah. And if we do kind of, if you look at the value area, I think probably what I'd be thinking about is, and this actually looks more like an inverse head and shoulders than the other chart. Look, it kind of looks like it could be an inverse head and shoulders. If we can find support here and break out to the upside, get back above that lost trend line, and then maybe we can kind of smash our way through to the value area high. And best case scenario would be to take out that high and then fall back in. Okay, and that's kind of, again, the timing's all wrong, so I don't know how this would play out, because we're running out of time, and I'd like to see how this plays out. But bam, if we can take out that high, that would be a V-shaped recovery after an inverse head and shoulders against Bitcoin. Taking out that high would be really impressive. And then for the pullback, probably in this circumstance, all the way back down into the value area, golden pocket, back test that trend line. And that's kind of what I probably would imagine against Bitcoin in the future, in the bear market, to come to kind of have a really nice breakout. In this circumstance, when the price is, if it did go all the way up there, that would be 1,000% increase against Bitcoin, and then like a 10x against Bitcoin. So if you have 1 Bitcoin's worth of TRVL, you end up at those highs. If we take out those highs, you end up with 10 Bitcoin's worth of TRVL. That would be a really nice take profit for a V-shaped recovery. That's kind of what I would love to see, and that's what I'm imagining. And then for a really bullish reversal, and then the pullback in the bear market, you'd clearly get a big take profit, and people fall back into the value area, and then you end up putting volume back in the value area in a bear market. But then if we were able to do that, I don't imagine that we'll go back to the all-time low, just because the market cap was so low. The market cap was a shade over $2 million. And if we're able to expand now with 1,000% increase in value against Bitcoin, with the value that's been extracted by people taking profit, I don't think we'll ever see all-time lows again. And in my mind, over the course of a bear market, that would be really bullish, because then the rest of the bear market would just simply be accumulation. And that during that period, the real world project would just go from strength to strength, because it also enables D-Travel, enables the team at D-Travel, enables people like me, keen supporters who are passionate about decentralized travel, to take the word out and to promote and push and onboard in places like El Salvador, Central South America, where I am now. So this is really interesting. So keep an eye on this. I'll kind of keep an eye on this. And like I said, I'll possibly stream again tomorrow or the day after, depending on what I'm seeing. But this is looking okay. This is looking quite nice. Keep an eye on this. Potentially we're forming a right shoulder here against Bitcoin. That's quite nice. All right. So have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. And then we'll see you soon.